Good afternoon, everybody. A pleasure to be here in KL. Kavitha, Sanjay, where's Sanjay gone? He's disappeared on me. Thank you very much again for the invite to be here. I think this is the 10th time in a row that AAM has been at Asia Geospatial Forum, or Map Asia I still think of it as. So it's a great privilege and a great pleasure for me to be here. Also, AAM have about 80 staff based here in, is that right, Maz? About 80 staff based here in Malaysia, so it's a great chance for me to catch up with my team based here. So, I'm always a little bit humbled when I have to stand in front of a group of colleagues who know so much about the geospatial industry. I don't quite know what to say. What can I tell you guys that you don't know? I should be sort of sitting listening to you guys. So really all I can do is to give you a few thoughts about what we see happening in the industry from our perspective as AAM, and maybe that will give you guys some ideas on where your business could be going or how that might work for your business. So I think when I was listening to the plenary this morning, it was really interesting. I heard Matthew from Hexagon or Leica talking about the growth of the industry, and I think also Sanjay talking about the growth of the industry. When we first started here about 10 years ago as AAM, we were about a $10 million company with about 100 staff. Now we're about a 500-person company approaching $100 million of revenue. So we're seeing the same trends in our small company as we've seen across some of the larger players. I also sort of picked up on a couple of themes from the talk from Hexagon and Trimble, and also from Sanjay, the mainstreaming of GIS, the availability of multiple solutions or solutions across multiple platforms, so the desktop, the web, the browser, tablet, smartphone, enterprise-wide application, but vertically focused or vertical industry focused. And integration with mainstream business systems. And all of those things are exactly what we're seeing every day in our business. So what I thought I'd do is just tell you a tiny bit about AAM and who we are, just not as an ad for AAM, but just to give you my perspective, and then perhaps just show you some examples of what we're doing with some of our customers, and how we hope that might help to improve the world that we live in. So as I said, AAM is a surveying and mapping company or a geospatial services company. Use whatever naming works for you. We have about 500 staff in 10 offices based in Australia and across Southeast Asia and also into Africa. We see this as the fastest growing and the most exciting part of the world. This is the new world in our opinion, so this is where we've decided to set up and grow our business from. So what do we do? As I said, we're an aerial survey and mapping company, so we fly around in planes a lot. We have 13 aerial survey platforms that we own. We also have numerous small UAVs, and that's something that's going to grow more and more, and you can see lots of that next door in the technology hall. We do satellite imagery, lots of satellite imagery, a key part of our business and an important enabler in working the full value chain with our customers. It sounds a bit old-fashioned, but we do lots of this. We do a lot of old-fashioned land survey, setting out roads, railways, ports, harbours. Increasingly we do the slightly sexier stuff, so the mobile laser scanning, and we've just seen Joseph talk about laser scanning. We do lots of that, and I do know Faro because we've had Faro for many, many years. The Aam, in fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And you can see there just a little video of the richness of the laser scanning data that we're now capturing. This is from one of our mobile laser scanner systems. So the amount of data that we can capture now is really quite remarkable. Increasingly our business is about getting all this content that we're so good at creating, and getting that content with our customers and integrated with our customers and across their enterprise. So whether that be sort of conventional 2D web mapping or 3D GIS as we sort of call it, that's an increasingly important part of AAM's business. We have a product called K2VI, which some of you may have seen, and I'll show you some videos in a moment, which is a true 3D GIS tool. We don't talk too much about 3D in our company because we're surveyors and mappers. Everything we do is in 3D, so we just take it that everything in the world should be in 3D. We also heard this morning, I think, particularly from Matthew and also from Sanjay, a little bit about BIM, Building Information Modelling. This is a growing part of our business. It used to be, a couple of years ago when we talked about constructors and architects in our company, we didn't like that very much because we never used to sort of find a solution that gelled with those guys. I think you're probably familiar with that one. But now with the ability for us to capture cloud data very, very quickly with high precision and very fast data capture systems, we're able to create solutions for architects and builders and then integrate them into their building information models and help them to actually manage the buildings that they're working on. And you can see that for a surveying and mapping company, the BIM space is very exciting because there's a place for us to play in the BIM space right through the whole building model, from design right through to building and then through to maintenance and rejuvenation. Another area that we're seeing a lot of growth in our company is ports and coastal management. More and more ports around the world are needing to deal with a lot more freight moving through their ports. And of course we all know and we're all very well aware of the challenges facing the coastal environment. I know that in our country, in Australia, I think 90% of the population of Australia lives within about 50 kilometres of the coast. So if the sea level comes up, there's some major challenges for us to deal with in our country. So what are some of the technology trends that we see? You guys know this. I'd love to be standing here talking about the technology, but I'll leave that for other wiser people to do. But some of the trends: geospatial across the enterprise, big data, whatever that is. I thought we always had big data, but we've got more of it now. The cloud. We've always had them as well, but now we've got two sorts of clouds. We see a rise in the concept of workflows, or the I want to. I think we first started seeing this in GIS a couple of years ago, and now I'm starting to see it right across a whole bunch of different mainstream IT systems. Mobile, UAVs, we've talked about that a little bit earlier, and we're going to hear more about that in the next few days. The rise of the app. Who doesn't have an iPhone or an iPad with an app that lets you get to your favourite piece of information or data? And I mentioned BIM. So what are the challenges and the opportunities for our industry? And I guess, I'm just throwing this out. Part of this is the challenges that we face as a services company. Increasingly our clients are coming to us and saying, well, yeah, that GIS stuff's really good, but I need it integrated with SharePoint. I need it integrated with IBM Cognos. I need it integrated with Salesforce. So we can no longer just be GIS professionals. We need to be able to integrate our technology right across the enterprise. Spatial is a horizontal platform. We all know and understand that. But increasingly we have to be much deeper into the vertical markets that we serve. I think the days of saying geospatial or as a platform, I think if we continue down that stream, then we may find that other people come in and actually become more relevant than what we do. So we need to become more specific in the vertical markets that we work with. I think we're, again, and this is an inward-looking comment, but as a company we're a bunch of techies. We love talking about technology, but we still struggle to communicate the benefits and the business benefits and drivers of the technology. And then this last one's an interesting one, because some of our customers embrace technology so fast and it's almost like, well, why are you doing that? Others of our clients are laggards and you think, well, why aren't you embracing the technology? I think there's a real juggle there to get the balance right across the adoption of technology. I wanted to steal this slide from one of our clients. It's Australia's largest oil and gas company, Woodside Energy. I can't go into too much detail because it's all a secret and I'll get into lots of trouble, but I just wanted to share this with you, and I know it's hard for you guys to read out there, but this is where Woodside see how geospatial information is used across their enterprise. And in fact, it's used across virtually everything that they do in their organisation. Oil spill response, exploration studies, oil rig positioning, pipeline management, asset tracking and logistics, and managing seabed surveys. Virtually everything that these guys do has a geospatial or a map component to it. And this particular company is one of the best that I've seen in actually having a geospatial strategy that actually supports the mainstream of their business. This is again stolen directly from their geospatial strategy. And you know, there's 5 points there, and I think they're all interrelated. They talk about expanding geospatial information content. So more and more they want geospatial content, but they need to think about how they'll store that data. Is it in the cloud? Is it on-premise? Is it hybrid? They need to think about integrating that information with their other business systems. And they also need to think about the integrity of that data. We hear a lot about crowdsourcing these days, and I think there's definitely a place for crowdsourcing data. But if you're an oil and gas company, you really want to make sure that the data that you're using actually is correct, because big decisions are made on that data with very large outcomes if you get it wrong. But one of the things I really like about the way Woodside are approaching it is the middle point, improving geospatial information delivery. So the next few slides are really just some examples about how we in AAM are trying to improve the way that we actually communicate the geospatial information and services that we provide for our clients. So the first one I just want to show you about is the concept of a map book or a story map. This is quite a popular thing now, particularly the Esri community love these story maps. This one I stole directly from my colleague at Digital Globe, Kevin Bullock, so thank you, Kevin. This is a blatant piece of plagiarising from your presentation, so I appreciate that. But I really love this one. This is a little website, and you can all Google this one and have a click on it and have a go at it. It's called the Water Wells for Africa site. And what it is, there's an organisation called Water Wells for Africa that creates water wells for developing communities in Africa to help them basically just to help them to live and survive. This little interactive presentation, and I can't do it interactively here because the broadband's not good enough, but it's an interactive map book story. So you can see that it talks about the situation. That's an interactive map. When you're on the web, you can actually move around and you can see the map. You can hover over points and it'll bring up a picture, just like in a conventional GIS. I think we get an example of it there. So when you hover over one of the wells, the existing wells, you can see, well, there's not much water in there, which is probably why they need some new wells. In this particular case, what they did is some classic GIS network analysis. And they came up with a number of different locations based on how long it would take for the different communities to find their way to those wells. In GIS terms, this is pretty simple, but these are sort of ill-defined tracks on the ground, so I think it probably there's quite some detailed mapping on the ground to work out what these routes were. And again, this is an interactive map, so you can actually, when you go on the website and have a look at this one, you can sort of hover your mouse over the easy route or the difficult route or the hard route, and you can see the different complexities from them. And then finally, from all that information, the analysis proposed the best site for a new well. And then it made a recommendation about how you would go about setting up that new well and what needed to happen to make that happen. So I just really like the story because it's a very simple application, but it's really communicated neatly. And my talking to it in slides doesn't do it justice. So Water Wells for Africa, have a look at that if you Google it. I'm sure you'll find it. So 3D, we talked a little bit about 3D earlier on. AAM is a 3D company. That's what we do. We've been doing 3D city modelling for quite some time, and we have 3D city models for many of the major cities in Asia: Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, Perth, Christchurch, Auckland, Hong Kong, Jakarta, so lots and lots of work in this part of the world. One particular implementation of the 3D city work that we've been involved in is Brisbane City Council. Quite a large council with quite a lot of resources, so I guess they can afford to have a dabble in things like this. But you can see how Brisbane City Council are using that 3D model that we've created over a very large area in Brisbane to share information with their communities, to lay out existing and proposed plans, to communicate the future vision for the city, to show zoning, and this is not just a conventional 2D zoning, but this is zoning in 3Ds, because more and more people need to be working with 3D zoning and 3D cadasters. Strategic planning, as I mentioned, development work, so how will a particular development or corridor fit into the existing landscape, right through to the design phase. So I think I'll just play this little video here. I might not play it right through, but we'll give it a crack for a bit. And you just see a little bit about what Brisbane City Council's doing with 3D.
See the view from Brisbane's tallest building, or get a bird's eye view of Suncorp Stadium. Welcome to Virtual Brisbane, Brisbane City Council's computer-generated 3D model of the city. Keep watching to see how this innovative technology is helping us plan for our growing city. Virtual Brisbane is a spatially accurate and interactive 3D model of the city's CBD and inner 5 kilometres. It allows planners to analyse proposed developments in greater detail than ever before. By animating the proposed development in Virtual Brisbane, planners can view it from an unlimited range of aspects, including ground level, mid-height and bird's eye views. They can vary the time of day, weather conditions and assess the impacts of height, orientation and design. They can also consider other scenarios, like adding extra parks and trees to support new development. Virtual Brisbane will also make it easier for residents to understand the future of their neighbourhood and city and have their say. By incorporating Virtual Brisbane into the neighbourhood planning process, council planners will be able to show residents the impacts of changes in a 3D environment, much better than sketches or artist impressions. But the potential for Virtual Brisbane is far greater than just development assessment. It has potential uses outside of council for industry, government and education. For more information on Brisbane City Council's Virtual Brisbane, call 3403 8888.
Okay, so like I said, one of the more innovative and advanced implementations that we've seen of 3D city modelling using some data that AAM's generated for Brisbane City Council and also some of our software. So this next one is much shorter, so bear with me, it's a little video again. Most of you will be aware that Christchurch in New Zealand has been unfortunately knocked over by earthquakes a few times in the last few years, which is a pity because Christchurch is a particularly beautiful little city. We were lucky enough to have worked with Christchurch City before the earthquakes, and now we're working with a group called the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority to help them manage the recovery of Christchurch. So this is another one that just shows you how 3D can help in a whole bunch of different situations.
One of the largest issues faced by disaster recovery teams across the globe is accessing large GIS datasets from multiple sources in real time. AAM's industry-leading 3D suite K2VI allows organisations like the Canterbury Earthquake Recovery Authority the ability to visualise, link and query existing GIS datasets in a real-time, highly accurate 3D environment. This maintains a single point of truth, with no data duplication, ensuring that all parties are interacting with the same data. whether viewed from a desktop PC, web interface or mobile device in the field. In addition to visualizing pre- and post-event 3D and 2D data, K2VI can be used to assess proposed development applications and communicate these to the public.
Okay, so hopefully you can see how we're hopefully helping the Canterbury region to rebuild their community. But I also think it's a really important point there, because the investment that the City Council of Christchurch had made and the Canterbury Regional Council had made prior to the earthquake in geospatial information is really critical. And I think that, again, we need to continue to come back to the fact that the content is key. Increasingly there's lots and lots of content, but it's got to be rigorous, and if it is, it's very, very powerful in helping and informing decision making. So just a couple more points to end off on, and I couldn't stand at a technology conference and not talk about the cloud. So here it is, here's the cloud. I think we've known about the cloud for a long time without knowing about it. In our company we use Salesforce to manage our client, or to manage our client interface and opportunities. I think Salesforce, Mark Benioff in theory invented the concept of the cloud, but Google would argue, as would probably Apple and a whole bunch of other people. But it's still not perfectly clear. It was just 15 months ago that Esri launched ArcGIS Online at the Esri UC in San Diego, and it was sort of a beta. Now, just 15 months on from that, Esri has almost bet the farm on the cloud, and everything from Esri now is about ArcGIS Online. And I think that's going to be a huge trend across our industry. But sure, how do you manage how do you manage privacy? How do you manage offline access? How do you manage security? So I think there's lots and lots of challenges for us, but I think it's absolutely certain we're all moving to the cloud. In AAM, we're no different. We're moving to the cloud. More and more our clients are saying to us, we want you to host the data and serve that data back to us. 3 or 4 years ago when we were talking to our clients about this, they're saying no, no, no. Now it's the other way around. If you can't host the data and serve it back to us, then we won't be doing business with you. So whilst we don't quite know where the future's going with this, it's quite exciting for us because it opens up a new relationship, an ongoing relationship with our clients. So just here's a little bit of the Aam Geo Cloud, which is really a content management system, so imagery, terrain, vector data, but then with an overlay of a web mapping interface that we use called GeoCortex, which allows people to interact with the map and make decisions and do workflows. So for instance here, in this case it's a coal mine in Queensland. This GeoCloud service is spread right across the enterprise. Anybody can go in, make measurements, view the coal mine from different epochs of imagery or different epochs of terrain. One of the common things that they need to be able to do is integrate various different data sets. Again, this Aam Geo Cloud concept allows them to do that. And finally, almost every day or every second day they have to blast the earth to blast away the topsoil and gain access to the coal to actually to mine the coal. And every time they do that, they have to make a blast map. Well, the Aam Geo Cloud, with the help of GeoCortex, has created a workflow that's taken what was about a day's work for them to make these blast maps, and we've turned that into about 30 minutes of work, just to step for a relatively ill-informed user, just to step through a series of workflows and finally create a blast map and a blast communication that's shared across the enterprise. So finally, the other big trend is that the world's gone mobile and the rise of the app. And again, in GIS and in AAM, we're no different. I mentioned our GeoCortex solution from a group called Latitude Geographics that we represent in this part of the world, basically a web mapping tool. A year ago, 2 years ago, definitely, we were just talking about web mapping across the desktop, across the enterprise, but now it's, I need to go mobile, I need to do it in an app, I need to be able to do it offline. This is an interesting application and a very standard GIS one for local government. This one is an offline mapping app to actually map bus stops and shelters. So a field collector goes out, takes a photo of the bus stop, types in some comments about the bus shelter, and then logs that data back into the GIS. Now, a few years ago, that was done with special data collection devices that were cumbersome and difficult to use. Now they use an iPad. And with things like PhoneGap, we're now actually able to take all of the data for that region, take that and store it on the iPad, do all of the work around entering in the area or the attributes that we want to type in, and then check that back into to the online GIS with an iPad. So that, in this case, is a simple app that we've built for the client there that uses an iPad to let them interact with their GIS system in an online, offline way. Finally, I mentioned our resources company, Woodside. These guys do some really cool stuff, so I thought I'd just give you some gratuitous shots here. So this is a 3D view of one of their LNG facilities in Western Australia. They used to look at this as a base map, and it was pretty boring stuff, but they wanted to enable it right across the enterprise and give their users a much better insight into what's actually happening. So we took all of that incredibly detailed CAD and GIS data and those PNIDs that Matthew was speaking about before, and we integrated them together into K2VI. And now, almost every user across the enterprise can access that information and do simple queries like this line of sight query that you see there. We can strip away the water to see what's happening where the pipelines go out from the port facility there. And we've even integrated the offshore oil rigs into the whole GIS, so it's a very, very powerful system. And you can see that by visualising it, it just brings it to life, and people start to use that, and they start to use it to communicate future plans or strategies, or to solve problems, or to engage other stakeholder groups. So look, to summarise, as I said, this is just a few random thoughts and ideas from the AAM perspective. We don't know where this stuff's going. We do know that people want more and more geospatial data. They want to integrate it across their enterprise. They need to juggle big data, the cloud, mobile. We see UAVs coming, and we know there'll be a place for them. We don't quite know where that is, but we know they'll be there. We see BIM and the integration between BIM and 3D GIS becoming very important. So we know that our industry has lots and lots of solutions that are going to help to solve some of the global challenges we face, particularly those that we have in the Asian region. So I guess my closing slide is a tiny bit provocative, as I'm wont to do. We've never had more data. We've never had more solutions. I think it's time that as an industry we stop talking about what can GIS do, how good is GIS, gee, it could be good for this, gee, it could be good for that. I think it's time we stopped talking about the potential of GIS. It's time we sort of rolled our sleeves up and got in there. I think there's a maturation of our industry, and we're seeing that with the consolidation of some of the larger players and even some of the smaller players like our own company. I think that we're going to see increased demand for true integration with business systems across the enterprise. And I think we're going to need to communicate how we've solved problems or business problems and stakeholder problems perhaps better than what we have done in the past. And rather than talking about the grand vision of a spatial data infrastructure, I think that hopefully we can start to communicate some small wins, and that will build as much confidence in our industry as anything. So I think that's about it for me. I hope some of my thoughts might be relevant for what you guys are doing day to day. Thank you.